Confidence is one of those attributes that I've been thinking about quite a bit. I've been really um, trying to figure out what makes for confident product managers, but as importantly, how do they act? Like, what are the traits by which you can say this person's confidence? And there's been enough studies that have shown that confidence is one of those things that's related to high performance. It's one of the strong attributes of high performers in any field, but it's super important in product management. I would say even more so. And second to, the number one question I get asked is, hey, how do I get into product management? A lot of folks are interested in getting into product management, and that was just my daughter walking in, asking me if she could play video games. Those are the days we live in right now. But anyway, number one question I get is, how do I get into product management? Followed by, how do I get into Google? But a very second conversation I have with product managers is the feeling of being an imposter, of having the imposter syndrome, that you're not really, you're not worthy of doing this job. You don't have all the skills and this constant worry. So today I'm going to paint a picture of what a confident product manager looks like. What are the 11 traits, 11 ways you can tell that they are somebody who's confident in their abilities and their abilities to figure things out. And then in later livecast, as well as an exciting thing I'll mention at the end of this livecast, I'll talk about how to build that level of confidence. So with that, let's get going. So, okay. And one great way to follow along is to rate yourself. Like, think about how you act in these situations and give yourself a rating in each of these 11 categories. 1 out of 11. Oh, sorry, from 1 to 10 in each of these 11 categories, and then where is it that you need to improve. So the first thing I see that confident product managers do well, the trait that they exhibit, is that they help their team leverage their collective intelligence. So what do I mean by that? Let me compare and contrast. A confident product manager would be somebody who's asking great questions in team meetings or off their team so that they can get to the best answer. A not so confident product manager would be trying to see their agenda through in order to ultimately get credit, ultimately to try to be the person who came up with these wonderful ideas. The more confident you are, you're more concerned about where you end up, irrespective of where the idea came from. And you ask really good questions. Some of the best questions I've seen such product managers ask are, if they are discussing in a team meeting and trying to figure out a new initiative, they might ask, what would we consider wild success here? You know, challenging the team to think about what is it that would make them ecstatic of having launched this feature or capability? Or what would make us stop and revisit our approach? Or what's the best answer given the situation, given the facts that we have right now? So they're always trying to put their team into different modes of thinking so that they can leverage the collective intelligence. And they're not necessarily tied to seeing their idea through. That's what one of the biggest things that confident product managers deliver. So second one, and you know what? I'll keep checking back for questions and comments, but for now, I'll keep going 3 or 4 of these. So the second one, very important, decisive. When most of the time in product management, you don't know the right answer and you don't have all the facts. If you have about 40 to 60% of the facts, you can make a decision and move forward with confidence, knowing that on occasion you will be wrong and you can come back and revise it. See, most decisions are type 2, and type 2 decisions are those that are reversible. with limited downside. Very few decisions are type one, which are, I cannot come back from this. And what we tend to do is we tend to mostly treat most decisions as type one, even though they're type two. So we think about it, we fret about it, we really like try to figure out. While really confident product managers can stand up to their team and say, look, we don't know all the answers. We can spend another 3 weeks investigating, but that's not useful. Let's go with this decision and we'll figure out if it's the wrong one as we move forward. That's what confident PMs do. So think about it for yourself. How often, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you put forward decisions? And how often do you just wait and try to get all the facts before you make decisions? So that's trait number 2, being decisive. Number 3 is fighting for the customer. Look, a normal setup is that you are working with anywhere from 3 to, I don't know, 30 engineers, maybe more. And it's you as a product manager. Maybe you have a designer. And while it's not a generality, often it's true that engineers care about the customer, but they love tech. Like that's the reason why they get into it, right? They love creating things. They love writing great code. It's their art and craft, and you cannot blame them for it. But what might get lost is the point of view of the customer, is what really matters for the customer. I remember a project I was working on where we were really obsessed about making sure the product that we were launching, that was fast. That was a key attribute. And we could have spent weeks trying to figure out what's the right metric, how do we instrument it so that we get as close as possible to the actual customer experience. While our product was in the wild, being used by customers, and they were not happy with the performance. So I had a choice. I could be like, yeah, let's figure out the right metric. It's the right thing to do. But the point is that wasn't delivering customer value. So I had to fight for the customer and say, what do we have today that's a good enough proxy for us to move forward? And so this combines both decisive and fighting for the customer, because what the customer needs are performance improvements. They don't care whether you have the best freaking metric and the best way to measure their performance gains. They really care about, can they access the UI quickly, and can they move to their task fast. So confident product managers keep pushing and keep fighting for the product, for the customer, and they act as the force that pulls their team towards the customer. So that's attribute number 3, or trait number 3. Number 4 is has been the topic of one of my blog posts that has really caught on fire. And it was sorry, I'm boasting, but it's the first blog post I ever wrote that got included in Mind the Product, which I think they really do a good job of picking all, some of the best blog posts across the internet on product management. And if you want to subscribe to one additional newsletter in addition to mine, of course, well then absolutely Mind the Product is a great one to subscribe for. So the main thing on the topic that I wrote was taking difficult conversations head on. As a PM, anytime you're advocating for ideas, anytime you're trying to get your organization to align and work towards something new, you'll have difficult conversations. You'll have cases where the other person's being too self-centered, they're thinking only about their own good. You'll have conversations where a team member is not acting in the best interest of the team. You'll have conversations where an engineer insists on just doing things their own way without worrying about what's good for the customer. And we could be surrounded by conversations which are difficult, which are challenging. If you're confident, you're going to take these head on. You'll get to resolution quickly, and you'll move things forward. But if you're not confident, like a lot of people, and look, it's human nature here, you might just try to postpone them. And almost sometimes subconsciously, you might just try to avoid these difficult conversations. So, a key trait of confident product managers that makes them super effective is that they take these difficult conversations head on. It's almost like they're playing a game. They know they can be good at this. They know they can come out of this situation ahead by having a difficult conversation with someone, even one in which you might be at fault. You might actually improve the relationship rather than damage the relationship. So, my challenge to you and the way I want you to grade yourself is here is 1 out of 10 is like anytime there's a difficult conversation, I run for the hills. I just don't want to have it. I do everything I can to avoid it. And a 10 is I just go prepare myself and go have that conversation. Even if I know it's going to be uncomfortable in the moment, I'm just going to go and take it head on. Cool. Checking once again if there's been any questions or comments. If there's any, just feel free to post and I'll try to address it. Cool. Trait number 5, they say no to good ideas. Now you might say, hey, that's dumb, sure, but like, why would you say no to good ideas? It's because there's 10 others that are more suitable for the mission you're on right now, for the arc in which your company is moving towards right now. So not so confident product managers would really fret and worry about, oh, like this data scientist came up with like this really awesome idea, and now I have to go say, no, that's not a good idea, or we're not going to invest in that right now. And they wait weeks, sometimes months. I've seen that in saying no. And by the way, I've seen that. I've also done that. Uh, I remember a role where I just would hold the backlog close to my chest, because once that got exposed, like what I was thinking of doing for the next 6 months, a lot of folks will realize that I'm not going to we're not going to be able to invest in their ideas. While what I should have done is just gone to them and said, here are 3 things more important. Sorry, we cannot do these ideas, even though I think it's a good one, but it's not great. It's not what we need. So, a confident PM, think about yourself. If you say no to good ideas regularly with empathy, 10. If you hide from saying no, 1. Excellent. Number 6, you might have guessed this one, is that they advocate for their ideas. Now, remember, the first one I talked about leveraging the collective intelligence of the team. And now I'm saying you must advocate for your ideas. It's obviously a balance. You advocate, but I love this phrase that I heard from one of the leaders I worked for. It was balance advocacy with inquiry. You know, advocate for your ideas, but get the other person's perspective. And maybe that might force you to change your mind, but then advocate for your ideas with confidence. And by the way, this also means not giving up easily. Just the other day, I was having a conversation with a client I coach, and we had a conversation on how she wanted to be more customer focused, and the proposals that she had put forward with her company in trying to get more customer focus, in trying to get more customer interviews in. And what ended up happening was she never heard back about it. And so I asked her, when was this? And she said, oh, that was 4 months ago. I'm like, okay, well, what did you do next? She assumed that they were not interested. That's not what you need to do. If you have not heard back, if you've heard no, try approaching it another way. Tony Robbins often talks about it. He says that, look, you have to, success is guaranteed. if you are firm in your beliefs, but the second thing is you're flexible in your approach. You're going to try something, not work, come back, try it another way. Try a different influencing approach. Go to a different person in the organization. Change the contents of what you're proposing, as in the tactics, but stand for your ideas. That's another thing that confident product managers do. Okay, we are more than halfway through, so I'm going to just check in. Great question. Sorry, I can't see your name in the studio. It shows everyone as Facebook user. So shouldn't it be advocate for customer problems to solve instead of ideas? That's a great point. So let me clarify. When I talk of ideas, it's meant to be somewhat more broader encompassing. English is failing me today. But yeah, it's meant to be broadly encompassing. It could be customer problems. It could also be the ideas in terms of process. In how your organization listens to customers, in how your team works together, in starting maybe a customer advisory board. So I use it as a general purpose term rather than whether it should be customer problems or whether it should be a solution or whether it should be a process or a way of approaching things or mindset changes. It's meant to be all. But the point is that you think about it and then um, you advocate for it rather than giving up too early. But excellent question, whoever it was. I'll come back and thank you later with your name when I can see your name. Awesome. Gonna keep going. Um, Number 7 is that they clear up bottlenecks. So by that, what I mean is, especially if you work in a large organization, you might be dependent on other teams. You might be waiting on approvals. There might be a whole bunch of stuff going on. And often your engineers or your designers might say, oh, we just got to wait for that to happen, or I haven't heard back, so I'll try something else. Strong product managers, especially in these organizations, go and say, look, I'm going to take over. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go fight for getting this thing done. I'll just let me figure it out. Let me get the approvals. You don't worry about it. And sort of relating to advocating for your ideas, here's where you fight for your team so that they are shielded and so that they can focus on work while you go tackle organizational bottlenecks. So that's what I mean by bottlenecks. It's organizational bottlenecks. You might not come across a lot of these in a startup environment. Even then, there are some. Like one of the biggest bottlenecks is the attention of your executive team. If they need to weigh in on something, you're gonna get it. You're not gonna hold your team because of that, but you're gonna go try to figure this out. So that's what strong, confident product managers do: is they take on themselves to go clear out these bottlenecks, but instead they do so themselves. Awesome. So we are 7 out of 11. I'll repeat everything at the end. Number 8 is shield their team. So this one requires some explanation. There's an amazing book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. If you haven't read it, please do. It's actually such a good read that, you'll just enjoy reading the whole thing. It has stories, like just one of the best books I've read on strategy. One thing that stood out to me from it was strong leaders, strategic leaders, they take a more complex problem to solve and they give their team an easier problem to solve. Oh, wow. What does that mean? An example from that book was when Starbucks started, Starbucks went through a phase where they grew too much, and then suddenly they sort of tanked. their growth plateaued. They weren't getting enough revenue and all these other things. And they were like, all these different ideas that were available for Starbucks to do. They could try to go international and grow there. They could maybe launch some new products. Maybe they should improve store efficiency, like all these different ideas. What the leadership team did was that they simplified the problem that their team needed to solve. They took all that data and they made meaning out of it. And they said, look, what's happening right now is we are not serving our customers well, uh, because customers come in and they see inconsistent experiences across various Starbucks stores. Sometimes the bathrooms are not clean. Sometimes the coffee is not made direct based on their order. Sometimes baristas are not personable enough. That's what we need to solve. And they gave that problem to their team rather than like all this data which the team would continue to ruminate about but not be able to make progress. Which means now they could do steps such as closing all stores for, I think, half a day and retraining their team to train their team to talk to the customer or look at the customer when they are giving them the order, like those sort of things. A much simpler problem to solve than the problem of figure out everything that's wrong with our growth. The same thing is true at a smaller level for you as a product manager. You could have all these different directions and confusion at the executive level and different points of view. You take all that and you synthesize that for your team and you give them an approach with which they can move faster. So you don't just give them all the problems that are there to solve, but you give them a more simplified problem and tell them, let me take care of everything else that's going on. That's confidence, right? You've both shielded them, but you've also enabled them. But you've also said, hey, if other things and you hear other things, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. That's confidence. That's a confident leader. That's a confident product manager. And so think about it. If you are getting different inputs from various members of your executive team, your stakeholders, are you just passing all of that on to your team, or are you synthesizing that for them and giving them a simpler problem to solve? That's shielding your team from all the crap that's going on. Okay, 3 more to go. Number 9. This one should be self-explanatory. I won't spend too much time on it. They give credit freely, right? They go to everyone, and they are, rather than trying to take credit, back for your ideas, for all these sort of things, they just tell people when they did a good job. When they are praised, they say, "Oh no, this person did the good job." Look, I was a pretty needy PM at one point. I was like, oh, why am I not getting recognized? And I used to fret and worry. And eventually I realized that product management is just a role where you actually don't get that much credit. It's just a fact of the situation. You're never really the hero. In fact, sometimes people getting into this field think that they are going to be the hero. And that's what brings them to the field. You accomplish a lot, you make a lot happen, but it's often behind the scenes. Sure, you might get on stage one time and announce your product launch. That feels great. It feels great to be on stage, but most of the time you're behind the scenes. And if like a team did something well, the team gets credit, the engineers get credit. And you as a strong leader, as a strong product manager, would give credit freely rather than trying to take it. So think about it for yourself. Is credit is like, do you need that validation? Do you need that credit to feel good about yourself? Or do you just feel confident in your abilities and you're able to give credit freely to others? That's number 9. Number 10. Sorry, I'm going to go a little over the 30 minutes I had allotted. So hope you can stay with me, or you can always catch up later on Facebook as well. But this is worth your time. This is so worth your time. I'm confident about that. Number 10 is they work well cross-functionally and across teams because they're able to influence, because they're confident in asking for help when it's needed, because they just work well with others because they are not seeking others to completely drop what they're doing, but they their own concerns, but they can confidently ask for help. So especially larger organizations, confident PMs always work well cross-functionally, influence other people, but at the same time listen to them. And last but not least, what you notice with this is almost a result of doing all these things, and because of this confidence attribute, is confident product managers just move faster through their career. They get promoted, they go to the right companies that they want to work for. Um, they speak up in their company and outside. You just see all that happen, and confidence is one of the underlying layers behind all of this. So let me remind you of what the things were. What were the 11 traits that I've noticed in confident product managers? And then I have something special to tell you at the end. So the 11 traits are: leverage your team's collective intelligence, be decisive, fight for the customer, take difficult conversations head on and don't avoid them, say no to good ideas who might not be a good fit for what your team is what your organization needs right now, advocate for your ideas passionately, clear up bottlenecks for your team, shield your team from confusion, give them a simpler problem to solve, give credit freely, and as a result, and work well cross-functionally and cross-team, and as a result, move through your career faster. Now, this is what happens when you have confidence. I want to help you have better confidence. So I'll post this link here later. In the first week of May, what I'm doing is I will be recording a course to help you gain confidence as a product manager. That's the headline. It's all about how do you figure out how to get confident fast and how to keep growing that throughout your career. Now, this is a course that is going to sell for hundreds of dollars. But what I'll be doing is I'll be doing a 3-day challenge where I will be recording this course live with you. So we'll be on Zoom. You can interact. That will actually make this course better. But you can see me record all of it. You can look at all the lessons, learn all the techniques and tactics completely for free. You just have to show up. And that's it. You get it completely for free. And later, the same course will sell for hundreds of dollars. So this is my invitation to you. What I'll be doing later is I'll be posting a link here as a comment for you to register for this, and then you can just attend those 3 days of learning about how to be a confident product manager, how to get rid of that imposter syndrome, and ultimately move through your career.